And welcome back to the Hot Lap. We are talking the Japanese Grand Prix, and it was another Verstappen victory. Okay, it wasn't really the most boring race of the year so far. There was some stuff happening behind the two Red Bulls. I mean, at no point really after lap 2 or 3 did Perez look like he was going to challenge Max. He was kind of on his pace for the first few laps, but then he wilted away like a flower. I mean, as you can see here, it was very much Verstappen. He finished 12 seconds in front of Perez, and it was Carlos Sainz 20.8 seconds behind, beating Lando Norris. I mean, to be fair, I think, taking away the fact that Red Bull had their upgrades, they were the best car. Ferrari did really, really well, especially Charles Leclerc. Yes, he did get beaten by Sainz. Yes, he did get out-qualified by Sainz, but we'll get into that in a bit. He did all right. We've got Lando Norris in 5th, Alonso 6th, and not a bad race for Alonso. Russell in 7th, Piastri 8th, Hamilton in 9th. Tsunoda 1 lap down, 10th, 11th Hulkenberg, 12th Lance Stroll, 13th Magnussen, 14th Bottas, 15th Ocon, 16th Gasly, 17th Logan Sargent, and then we had Zhou, Ricciardo, Albon kind of out. There we go. So let's get into then, before we get into any of the news, etc., let's get into our winners and losers of the race. Yes, how harsh? We've got quite a few winners and losers, I think. Let's get into the losers. And for me, yes, Logan Sargent, it's almost like I'm not going to bother at this point, really. You know, either way, it's apathy for Logan Sargent as he goes off, finishes, pretty much dead last. However, our first loser, Mercedes. I know we had so much hope for Mercedes going into the race. Hamilton saying this is the best the car has felt, which we heard again in Australia as well, didn't we, beforehand? And then came the race with their weird one-stop strategy. Now, the reason I got quite upset about this is George Russell did that one-stop strategy last year. Didn't work. What was going to happen this year? I don't know. Those hard tyres really are not working with that Mercedes, probably because they were full of fuel. Hamilton mentioned that he had damage in respect of Leclerc going to the first corner. That's why he let Russell through. But to be fair, Hamilton's pace towards the end was quite good. But by that point, it was really minus a safety car or another red flag. It was really too late, wasn't it? So, not good at all. So average. Our next loser, this guy here. Bear in mind, Alonso finished 6th. A really, really good race. You finished 12th. A couple of good moves, but it's Lance Stroll. Should he be in Formula 1? I know that's kind of awkward. Sorry. No, he shouldn't. I mean, yes, he's talented. You've got to be, let's be fair, you've got to be good to drive these cars around the track, all within about a second and a half of each other. Are they better drivers? I keep saying yes. And until Lance Stroll decides to be the Lance Stroll that qualified on pole in Turkey and did the Bahrain race last year, this is going to continue. He's going to continue getting destroyed by Alonso, but he's nowhere near. That's the thing. You kind of expect Alonso to do better. Lance Stroll finishing 12th. Meh, really? But there we go. Now, so the next two people, I don't want to say it's out of their control, so to speak, but they didn't do too great. This guy here, under pressure, goes off just after the first couple of corners, and has an accident with this guy here, Alex Albon. Now, yes, it was a racing incident. I don't think we can really criticise them too much for that. However, it's of the two people you think didn't need this, it would have been the Williams team and Daniel Ricciardo, and that's exactly what happened on the first lap. So I kind of feel for them all. Plenty of winners though, on a positive front. Charles Leclerc, why is he the winner? After getting beaten by his teammate, both in qualifying and in the race. He kind of maybe had a chance in the race, but still, it was Charles Leclerc on those medium tyres, the tyre whisperer. And when you looked at the tyre degradation chart, which we'll probably do next week, he was really good. I think it was more impressive than Red Bull. So an absolute exclamation mark winner there, along with his teammate, Carlos Sainz, finishing 3rd. Again, outperforming Charles Leclerc. What more can I say? If this guy is... if this not an advert for Mercedes and Red Bull saying hire me please, I don't know what it is. This guy's doing the absolute maximum he can do. Full points, absolutely fantastic. And we've also got this guy here who did a really solid race. Bear in mind his Aston Martin, I don't think was, what, 6th? So it definitely wasn't the 3rd or 4th fastest car. I do think his car was slower than McLaren and slower than both Mercedes, yet he beat them. So well done, Fernando Alonso. And that all started with a really solid qualifying lap, and then continued going into that race. Obviously, it's kind of getting a bit boring now, putting the Red Bull as winners. Yes, they did a really good, as a team, fantastic. But I don't know, what more do you really expect? They are the best. They are the best car. But for me, the man of the race, Japan's own Yuki Tsunoda, it would have been so easy for him with the pressure to get the best of him. I mean, to be fair, he did get a really bad start. But despite that, he finished 10th, and I think that's the absolute maximum. Yes, it was a lap down. Bear in mind, no, not too many other top guys. None of the top guys really had a massive issue or failed to win. But yeah, I mean, he beat Hulkenberg and Stroll were his next 2 closest competitors, and Lance Stroll at one point was behind him trying to pass him, and he just couldn't. He kept his cool. Yuki Tsunoda, our man of the race. I mean, yeah, exclamation marks. Absolutely loving it. So let's get into driver by driver then. So we had Mr. Magnussen. He finished 13th. I think a solid race. Okay, no points for Haas this time, but I always said, considering where they were, everyone thought they would be at the beginning of the season. I don't think you can knock them at all. And that also goes for his teammate Hulkenberg, who finished 11th, 1 place out of the points. Once again, I think both Haas drivers got the absolute maximum out of their cars. Now, obviously, we've spoken about Daniel Ricciardo. Not the race he needed. Oh dear. The pressure is on now going into China. It is a race he's won. It is a track he knows. Hopefully, he gets the full practice sessions, the opposite of what he did here. I just hope he does good. I really want Daniel Ricciardo to do well. I think most people do. Yuki Tsunoda, we've just spoken about, the man of the race. Well done, Yuki Tsunoda. Logan Sargent is kind of like, I'm not even going to bother putting him in the losers. If he does something great, I might put him in the winners. It's by the by now. Oh, Logan, wherefore art thou? Logan, normally at the back. Sorry, Logan. In that case, not always at the back, but today very much so. After that first incident, Alex Albon, once again, racing incident. I don't think you can criticise any of them. So, Esteban Ocon, you finished 15th. You beat your teammate. So you did the first part of the job all right, but once again, you've got one of the slowest cars on the grid. What more can you do? This man here, Gasly, beaten by his teammate. That's about it, really. I mean, I don't know what more you can really say. One of the teams that are yet to score points, and this is a works team. Yeah, they are in crisis mode, aren't they, really? Let's be fair. It's like very much Williams, AK 2019, it feels. So we've already spoken about Lance Stroll. Bad qualifying, very, very average race, considering how good that, I think that Aston Martin is. It is a top 10 car. He didn't get into the top 10. He couldn't pass Yuki Tsunoda. Is that because Tsunoda has more talent? I don't know. Maybe. I know. I'm on one today with the Lance Stroll. I'm so sorry. Once again, he's inevitably a much better driver than I'll ever be. But I'm not in Formula One. So there we go. So Fernando Alonso, I think, won a really good performance by his own admission. I mean, as we know, Fernando is a fan of Fernando. And he said, and we'll get into the news piece, that it was one of his best races of the year. So yeah, Piastri, not as solid as last year. Last year, if you remember, he out-qualified Lando Norris, did not quite do that at this race, finished 8th, and he finished a good, I think, just over 17-ish seconds behind his teammate. Not too bad, though. I think solid result, given the fact that I don't think the McLaren was as strong here as it was last year. And that also goes for Lando Norris. Yes, not too bad, Lando. It wasn't no podium this time. I mean, he fit 29 seconds. So he was only 9 seconds off a podium against Sainz. And towards the end, he had very similar pace, I think, to Charles Leclerc. Just not enough to get past him. But yeah, solid result. If not spectacular for Lando Norris. I think about where, he probably would have finished, because these Ferraris were really good in the race. Carlos Sainz, very close to being the man of the race. Also, along with Charles Leclerc, another guy who was very close to being the man of the race. Really, really solid job for Ferrari. Good strategy for both cars. They split their strategy, and Charles Leclerc made that one-stop work, which, let's be fair, these next people, it didn't. They had to come in. George Russell, once again, I think both Mercs got the maximum they could out of the race. But as a team, really disappointing, especially given that the car's the best it's ever been from Lewis Hamilton's point of view. Yeah. Well, it needs to give... Essentially, it needs to be better. But then Hamilton did say he had that crash damage from the first corner. Solid job for Perez. That's exactly what Red Bull need. What he, from him. It does help with him maybe getting that driver next year. Fingers crossed, we'll see. And then we obviously have the winner, Verstappen. Did he even sweat during the race? I don't think he did. I think he could have finished a bit further down the race or whatever, but he could have. That gap to Perez and particularly Sainz could have been maybe a bit more. So that is our winners and losers. Let's get into the headlines of the Grand Prix, because there's a couple of news stories coming out. I'm sure we'll end up talking about this tomorrow as well. So we've obviously got Hamilton saying he had a damaged race. Yes. No, so he says the Leclerc F1 clash derailed his Japanese Grand Prix hopes. And this is from motorsport.com. The Mercedes driver had gone into Suzuka race hopeful that the team is going to build on this promising potential showed in practice, kind of like Australia. They didn't. But at least they finished. But he was on the back foot almost immediately from the restart of the red flag race after that clash between Alex Albon and Daniel Ricciardo, hitting Charles Leclerc in the opening sequence of corners. That meant he said he had excessive understeer at the beginning of the race, hence why he played the team game and let George Russell through. Speaking about it, he said, I got some damage in the first in the restart with Charles, and I had massive understeer, like huge understeer. So that's why I decided to let George by, because he seemed quicker. I just couldn't turn the car, and it took us 2 stints to finally dial more and more wing into make up for the loss of that. Last stint I was better, but it was too late. I had 10 seconds to regain. Once again, he had the medium tyres as well, and the fuel would have been a lot lower, so the car would have felt better anyway. Not to digress from Lewis, I think he was faster than George in that last part of the race. So Williams Chassis, yes, another crash for Williams, another day. Williams to send Albon F1 Chassis back for repairs. So as you may know, he took Sargent's chassis in Australia. He kept that. Sargent had the repaired chassis. And I'm not it's just not good, is it, for them? I mean, you can barely see that. You can just see the rear wing of I think, is that, yeah, the tyre, the rear wing of the Williams. So the chassis suffered damage to the front right when Albon speared the tyre wall after making contact with Daniel Ricciardo. The team, which will be without a spare until the Miami Grand Prix, so they've got China to go, remains confident that it can be repaired successfully and shipped to Shanghai for the Chinese Grand Prix. Bear in mind that's 2 weeks away. Not too bad. So it was the third major accident suffered by the team in 2 weekends. In Australia, Albon suffered in FP1 and had to take the chassis of Logan Sargent. In Suzuka, it was the Americans' turn to, his favourite ice cream was walls. Yeah. So team principal James Vowles, he admitted in Suzuka on Friday that the team would still have that spare tub. In China, the third chassis at the moment won't be with us until Miami. Goodness me, don't Williams need that third chassis? And in terms of chassis, if you put all of your resources, everything you possibly have within the organisation, it could be 8 to 10 weeks that you pretty much get a chassis done from freezer to something actually built and out there. So yeah, not the best looking for Williams, but here we go. Fernando Alonso. Yes, as we know, Fernando is a fan of Fernando. And Fernando Alonso makes major Japanese F1 career claim after his performance. He was reportedly from PlanetF1.com beaming after the Japanese Grand Prix and explained why he boldly ranks it right up there with his best ever performance in Formula One. While Alonso's Aston Martin association started on a huge high last year with regular podiums, it's been a bit more muted this year. But what did he say about his results? He said, I think it was one of my best races or my best weekends, he told Sky F1. He went on to saying, I think it was very complete and very strong, very solid since Friday practice to the race. Maybe the best of the last year, or maybe even the top 5 of my career. He said, but it's going to be completely anonymous. Everyone will forget by tomorrow this weekend that we had. But I felt connected with the car, he said. I think P5 yesterday, that it's completely out of position, and P6 today is completely out of position. We are definitely slower than Red Bull and Ferrari. They are in another league at the moment. But I think McLaren and Mercedes are faster than us. I mean, yeah, as I said, he's one of our winners. He had really, really good. Lewis Hamilton, I just wanted to get into this, which I thought was quite interesting. It is kind of very un-Lewis-like when you look at it. He snaps back at reporter after ill-timed Ferrari question asked. Yeah, he was not in the best of moods, bearing in mind, you know, the highs of practice and the lows of the race, which we're kind of getting used to at Mercedes. So Hamilton was full of enthusiasm after qualifying, not so much as the race concluded. So Hamilton, I said, was not happy this time around. Going into, after a simple "it was okay" assessment of his race, a reporter tried to weave in Hamilton's upcoming 2025, which did not go down well. The reporter asked, are you looking forward to being with them because they're faster? Now, here's the thing. I think that's a fairly valid question. He's a reporter. They have to ask difficult questions. Fairly brave, maybe. And to that, he replied, do you have any better questions? Okay, he didn't have to answer it. And then Hamilton did not stick around. Said reporter would probably never find out the answer, but clearly this was a race which the 7-time champion was no mood to dwell on. In terms of that, I probably side with the reporter, really. I mean, yeah, difficult question. Hamilton just would have smiled and said, oh, you know, I'm not thinking of Ferrari, I'm thinking of Mercedes this year, but no, have you any better questions? Yes, it probably hurt a bit, but still, I was kind of disappointed to the way Hamilton reacted to that. Yeah, come on, Hamilton, be better. We know you can. We know you can. So, if you made it to the end, like and subscribe. There'll be more Japanese Grand Prix fallout tomorrow, I'd imagine. And we will no doubt speak to you soon. Thank you very much. If you made it to the end, you're an F1 champion in our eyes. Shout out to my buddy Simon, who did text me saying, where's the video? I was too tired. Sorry, Simon. But yeah, I miss you though. Anyway, speak to you soon. Thank you very much.